So we've got a few people joining us again. Thank you for joining the session promptly. There is a QR code on screen if you'd like to get your phones out and scan that and answer the first two questions, questions one and two. So it's coming up to 3 o'clock. People are joining now. If you have just joined, please can you scan the QR code on the front page and answer questions 1 and 2 while we're waiting for others to join. So we'll just give us another minute or so. Thank you very much for joining the session on writing effective legal client alerts. You'll see a QR code on screen. Can you please scan that while we're waiting for others to join and answer questions 1 and 2? We're up to 29 now, so we'll give it just another moment or so. So if you could please scan that and answer questions 1 and 2 while we're waiting, please. Great. It's just gone 3 o'clock in Hong Kong. Thank you very much for joining us in this session on writing effective legal client alerts. I'm joined by my colleague Byron Phillips, with whom I have worked on many a client alert, and helping to drive the session and the Menti interactive elements are Gavin Gray and Tracy Draper in London. So while we've been waiting for people to join, we've asked you to scan this code and answer the first two questions. Gavin, can I throw it to you and see what people have come up with? And question 1, have you ever seen a Hogan Lovells client alert, perhaps an Engage or through the email? 11 people who answered said yes, 1 person said no, so there's work to be done there, clearly. And the next question. Have you ever been involved in preparing or drafting a client alert? So 9 people said they had, and 3 people said they hadn't. So thank you very much. Got some more interactive fun coming up later. But for now, we'll start the session proper with today's learning objectives. So by the end of this training session, you should be able to understand what client alerts are, their benefits and when they're needed. Identify and use best practice techniques to prepare client alerts, localize and use appropriate resources, and appreciate other client engagement strategies. So a bit of background on me. Before I switched to law, I used to be a television producer and journalist in the BBC and working on BBC News. So that's why I enjoy writing client alerts. And so it suggested that we repeat this session, which we did for the first time last year. We hope it's an interactive session, and we hope you'll take the opportunity to take part by asking questions directly or in the chat box. I'm joined today by Byron Phillips, who many of you will know. Byron, do you want to say a word on client alerts and their importance?
Absolutely. Yeah. Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a partner in the disputes practice here in Hong Kong. Client alerts are super important for 2 reasons. One, they allow us to stay in contact with our clients when in between jobs that we're doing for them, or to let them know that we're thinking about them and the issues that they're facing in their businesses. But they're also a way for us to display our knowledge industry sector knowledge, legal knowledge, our sort of our bench strength in terms of what we offer to our clients and to future clients. So hugely important, easy to get wrong. And I think we're in a pretty good place in the way that we get our content out, but there's always room for improvement.
Thanks, Byron. So looking at client alerts, what they are and what they are not. So a client alert, we call it a timely, concise news bulletin that informs clients of an important legal development. That could be new legislation or regulations, court decisions, or current trends. It's a pithy explanation of a recent development that impacts a client's business, and we hope that it presents actionable information that will be of value to the client without becoming too specific or detailed. And perhaps just a word on that. So if you imagine that people are typically going to read their client alerts on their phone, it mustn't be too long, mustn't be too detailed. It's not an academic thesis. So we usually suggest about two to 3 pages at most for a client alert, because you have to think that a client will probably only spend about a minute or 90 seconds on it. And it showcases the firm's expertise in the relevant area, and we'll come on to look at how we refer to our practice groups and our areas of expertise. So any thoughts, Byron, on length or impact that a client alert can have?
Nothing much more than you've already said. I think particularly on devices, if it is long and looks very, very wordy, people immediately switch off. So it's important to make it visually attractive and to ensure that there's not too much information that they have to consume, because you have to remember that our clients, as much as we like to think they only read stuff from us or only have us in mind when they're thinking about their legal concerns, that's obviously not true. They're getting bombarded with content from lots of different law firms, peer firms of ours, and others. So the trick for us is to make sure that what we produce and what crosses their desk, metaphorically and physically, is something that they want to read. And usually brevity helps.
Thank you, Byron. So let's have a look at what a client alert is not. Client is not a comprehensive white paper, so it doesn't have to go into every aspect of the new regulation or the case or whatever it is that we're writing about. So if we're looking at a litigation case or an arbitration decision, for example, the facts may be neither here nor there to the reader. They need to know, what is the big message from the case? Maybe it's an obiter comment from the judge that's tucked away on page 42 of the judgment, which may indicate the way the court is thinking in other similar cases. And so it's our job as Hogan Lovells communicators to bring that out as to why we think the clients need to know about it. It's not a legal brief or opinion letter, and that's where we talk a bit about the difference in writing styles between writing formal legal memos and writing more everyday, writing alerts in more everyday language, a bit like you would speak to someone. So something that would be readily understood. It's not an academic article, so generally we discourage the use of footnotes in client alerts. And remember how the client is likely to be reading the article. Will they even notice a footnote? We also discourage the use of definitions too much in a client alert as well, as we'll discover later on. And essentially, it's not legal advice. And in some of our longer publications, we take the opportunity to make that explicit by way of a legal disclaimer. Anything to say on that, Byron, as to any thoughts on bad client alerts that could have been better?
I think it's the same rule that applies to writing letters, as particularly as a disputes lawyer. There's an old saying that is that I didn't have time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long one. It sometimes does take more time and effort to write something pithy and relevant to the reader, but that that effort is absolutely necessary. So it's just about focusing on the really key items that you think when you put yourself in your client's shoes, what it is. And this all sounds obvious, but unfortunately, people do trip over on this quite often. And you read things from us and also from other law firms that are too long, too wordy, and too academic. So the key thing is to make sure that it's pithy and in your client's shoes. It's something you would want to read.
Great, thank you. Now, please go back to your phones and we'll take a short breath. What are the benefits of a client alert? Please, can you answer question 3 on your phones and we'll have a look at what you suggest. So we'll just give that a moment or so while you do that. So what are the benefits of the client alert? What can you think of, or what has particularly impressed you about something you may have seen from Hogan Lovells or from another law firm that has particularly struck you? What do you think the benefits can be to our practice, to our legal business? Great. Have we got some answers there, Gavin? Shall I throw to you for the words?
Coming in thick and fast, so I think people have just got everything loaded up. So maybe give it another 10-15 seconds just for a few more to come in. And then I'll share the results.
And of course, we're working at the edges of interactivity here, so please bear with us. Something doesn't immediately load or come on screen. But yeah, have a look at what are the benefits of client alerts.
Okay, we've got some good responses coming in to have a look at. So I'll okay, so you should be seeing some themes there now, Nigel.
Thank you. Oh, well, that has unfortunately gone from my screen, but can you read out what some of the benefits that you see?
Lots of things. Profile raising, awareness, client relationship, showing expertise, relationship building, drawing clients' attention.
Someone's got marketing there as well, so the benefits for us as well, not just for the client. So that's good too.
Great.
Picking up on, yep, someone's picked up on one of the ones that you had at the beginning as well, Byron. So showcasing our expertise, reputation, profile raising,
awareness.
Yeah, good.
Brand awareness, relationship building.
Fantastic.
So great. So coming back to the slides. So the audience, we hope to give them a timely heads up about a significant issue that may impact their business. Actionable information that drives them to the firm for further assistance. These are just some thoughts that we had. For the firm, it should help to generate new business from current and potential clients, and it reinforces the firm's expertise in the particular practice area. And for the authors, of course, it raises your own profile. So the key point here is that it's not just the clients who benefit from good client alerts. So we'll return to who the audience is in a little while, but maybe the take-home points are that the reader, your audience, receives a benefit by learning about something significant that impacts their business and on which they receive information on which they can act. You want to avoid clients reading something and thinking, well, so what? You want them to take some action off the back of it. And that may be action in terms of speaking to us, in terms of wanting to know more. So clearly, the preferred action is that they come back to you or to the firm for advice. So as soon as an alert is published, and you can see it's published, make sure that you forward it to your contacts. There are various tools that MMBD provide to us. For example, you should post it on LinkedIn. You can share it on Clearview Social to those with those emails that come through regularly from MMBD. when you do that, and maybe Byron will have a word to say about this in a moment, it's good to try and personalize what you post. So it's probably, you will get some suggested text in the Clearview social email, but it's good for you to put your own particular spin on it as you share it. And of course, it will be shared to your biography on Hogan Lovells, and people can see that this is thought leadership that you have been involved in. And it also help to promote your presence and your practice. Byron, any thoughts on posting something you've written?
Yeah, my great frustration with the use of LinkedIn, particularly using Clearview, is that because it's very easy for us, it's that we're sent that sort of template text, it's very tempting just to press share and for it to go out in that kind of standardized language. And if clients are paying attention, they'll see that that is coming from lots of people from Hogan Lovells, all in the same, using the same words. So I think it's very, very important to personalize it. You don't need to personalize it very much, but just enough to put your own stamp on what you're saying. And sometimes I rewrite what's on the Clearview thing. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just tweak it here and there. But I think it's just important to make it stand out a bit more so that your clients don't feel like they're just getting a blast from Hogan Lovells, this faceless Hogan Lovells firm. So it's very important to make sure that you can distinguish yourself from other people that are sending out. There's also a tendency just to press send all or share all, which I think can be a little dangerous because you're just bombarding LinkedIn with lots and lots of different LinkedIn posts on different topics, and that might counter against your intention to raise your profile in a particular area or a particular sector. So I think it's always very careful. You have to be very careful to ensure that you're getting out to your authentic sharing with our clients and with future clients, because I think that's very, very important. It's a fantastic tool, LinkedIn, really powerful. It's just about using it properly.
And as I see Byron does frequently, it's a good idea also to tag your colleagues. So those who wrote the article or are contacts with the article, because that again reinforces our expertise and hopefully your practice and their practice by being associated with it. So taking a look now at our audience just quickly. So obviously our primary audience is going to be in-house counsel and company executives of the firm's clients in a particular industry. Secondary audience will be anyone who views the client alert on Hogan Lovells Engage, which is presently our thought leadership platform where clients go to choose the subjects that they want to know about and how often they want to know about them. So the whole purpose about Engage when it was introduced 2 or 3 years ago was that we wouldn't spam clients with emails. We would allow them to receive from us when they want to receive from us alerts on topics that they're particularly interested in. So that's the secondary audience. And remember that everyone reading the alert is busy and may not be an expert in the subject matter. So the advice is to keep the alert concise and direct. Leaving out things isn't a bad thing as long as it gets the client to come to us to try to know more. Byron, anything to say on that?
Yeah, I think again, it's quite easy to forget who we're writing to, who the audience is. I think it's just very important to make sure that that whether it's the clients, well, really, you want to tailor your alert such that the client, when the client reads it, they feel that they're being seen and heard, but also it's something that at the same time is broad enough to attract other clients to our work as well. So it's a bit of a balancing act.
Great, thank you. So now we take a look at what makes a good client alert, top tips. So again, we'll ask you to go to your phone and to the Menti and answer question 4, please. And we'll give you a few moments to do that.
There are 56
Gavin,
people on this call, so hoping for good numbers.
yeah, that'd be lovely.
Rather than the 17 that did it last time.
Well, you never know. They may be researching a new alert. But yeah, it'd be good to have participation. And Gavin, please let me know when you've got enough responses and we can show them on screen.
Starting to come through now. Good themes coming through, so I'll leave it up there just another 10 seconds or so for anyone who still needs the QR code. But yeah,
so if you already scanned the QR code for the earlier question,
yeah, you should just be able to go.
You just go to the next one and answer question 4, which I think is the final one for this session.
And that's an incentive on its own. That's the last one. Okay,
Right,
we've got a decent chunk. Yeah, we've got a decent chunk coming through. So
oh, and we got a Brian Paisley chat. Thank you, Brian, to Byron. Well said on Clearview.
Look at that, 20 people now.
Very good. So
it's on fire.
Having a look at some of these, we got eye-catching, updated, concise, informative, short and succinct, clear and concise. Again, and that word concise and clear. Comprehensive information. Well, potentially it doesn't have to be. You don't have to get into every single detail though, as we said earlier. So leave them wanting more. Leave them wanting to know more from us. Hopefully, explains the impact. Yes, well written. We like to think they are clear what it means, straightforward, timely update on the new law. So yes, some fabulous answers there, and we'll go and have a look now at what we thought. Hang on. So what makes a good client alert? Top tips. So yes, as we said earlier, keep it short. So remember that your purpose is to inform and advise. So focus only on what matters to the client and think of cutting out everything else. Say something. Identify what your client cares about and needs to know. Use subheadings, break up paragraphs, and include hyperlinks. So if you're writing about a government consultation or new piece of legislation that's just come out, hyperlinks are good and they don't disrupt the flow of the article. Much better than footnotes. So hyperlinks within the article itself are good. And you can also reference, and you're encouraged to reference, other articles that we've written on a similar subject. And you'll see on the engaged screen that those appear along the side of the article. In terms of the language you use, so use straight talk, be confident, use natural language, be insightful, and come across as authoritative. So skip the legalese and technical jargon and use the firm's straight talk style. I think it's actually described as such by the firm. So you want to showcase your sector knowledge, you want to spot trends and communicate those, make strong statements about the marketplace. Again, use natural language as if you're speaking to someone face to face. Be confident, offer a bold point of view, and expert. So confident, simplify complex ideas and offer commercially relevant analysis and solutions. You want to be timely and accurate. So you really don't want to put out an alert, the 9th alert, after other law firms have already published theirs. So it's good to try and get your alert out as soon as you can so that the clients are the ones hearing it first from us. So you must publish the story quickly before it becomes old news, but you also need to make sure that what you say is accurate, of course, and you go to primary sources to confirm that. And it's important that you're either quoting directly from the judgment or use your own words to summarize. And then, of course, you've got the headline, the summary. In some cases, that may be all that the client is going to read. So make sure it's a catchy one. If it's appropriate, make sure it's a witty one, something to catch the client's attention. Byron, any thoughts on catching attention?
Yeah, I think we've gone over it before, but the length of the alert is really important. I have the attention span of a 5-year-old when it comes to alerts or anything that I'm sent, and it needs to be something that I'm personally interested in. So I think that's where a bit of work has to be done to get to know your client's business and what keeps them awake at night and what floats their boat, and then making sure that that's the sort of content that we're getting out. When I read something that's of interest to me, I'm much more likely to want to scroll down and go a further page or two than I would if it were just something generic that doesn't really do it for me. So I think that's incredibly important. When reading something, I always find that it's quite useful having those hyperlinks to take me to something else, or graphics that make it slightly more interesting on the eye, and pull together different themes. I think that's really, really important. So the more that we can make these things interesting for clients, the better. We need to assume that they're going to be far too busy to read our stuff. So the best foot forward we can put is very, very important.
Great, thanks, Byron. So now it's time to go over to you for an interactive exercise. So here's an example bad alert. Well, we hope you'd think that it's a bad alert for training use only. I won't read all of this, but what we're going to ask you to do is to see what you think could be improved, what could be improved on this, and how you would make it more appealing and more enticing for the client to know more. So this one says, and I won't read all of it, but dear client, the Court of Appeal has handed down 2 parallel rulings on whether an arbitration agreement or a winding up petition should take precedence in an insolvency context after a series of conflicting first instance decisions. And then we talk about the cases, new cases. At first instance, the court ruled the ratio should only apply to EJCs, ratio, good legal term there, not arbitration clauses. Then another case referred to there. The Court of Appeal, there's a very chunky paragraph coming in here, where talking about what the Court of Appeal said, and their reasoning as to the question whether the debt is disputed in good faith should not be determined through the agreed resolution mechanism. And then at the end, we say, if this decision affects you or your business, please speak to your usual Hogan Lovells contact. So we will give you a couple of minutes to take a look at this and suggest, if you could suggest what might be improved with it. So don't feel shy. Please chip in on I'm not sure I will see the questions in the chat, but maybe Byron or Gavin, if you can keep an eye on that. And
yeah, no problem.
Please just open up your cameras and your microphone to give us some ideas.
And just to say as well, Byron, you've already got there's a question there from
Tego, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, okay, you've got it. Brilliant.
We can probably answer that now, Tego. Suggestion for what your question is, every firm writes alerts. What is your suggestion to make us different with others and make it helpful for clients? It's really a lot of the things we've been talking about, right? It's about making sure that the content that we get out there is sufficiently personalized and or sort of authentically directed at our clients, and not just a generic, you've got to make sure that it's generic enough to cover different people, but it needs to be a well-directed, short, fairly straight to the point tempter, a teaser to make the client want to come to us for advice on that particular thing. So giving them the headlines of why this issue is relevant to them, why they should be either interested in, concerned by, or intrigued by, this particular thing that's happened, or legal development, or sector development, that makes them want to come back to us. And there are lots of different ways of doing that, right? I mean, you do it by, it might be that it's such an important topical issue that's arisen that it sort of does a lot of the work for you, and then it's just about making sure that clients know that we're talking about it and we know what we're talking about. But it's really about, particularly when you take a client alert and you personalize it and send it out personally to particular clients, rather than perhaps posting it on the website or on LinkedIn, it's about tailoring it so that the client knows why you know it's important to them, why you know, how you know so much about their business, that you know why this is going to make them tick, right? It's just about that personal connection. We're a people business. People like to work with people they like. It helps if the people that they like really know what they're doing, and vice versa. So I think that's just about making it that personal, that sort of personal touch. Do you suggest stop writing similar pieces if other firms have done it before us? No, I don't. I think that there's plenty of room for us to be getting stuff out even when other firms have done it before us. A few reasons. One might be that the other articles are not as good as ours. It might be, I mean, if there's a huge, as Nigel was just saying, we want to get things out quickly. So if there's a huge delay between a particularly topical event that's relevant to our clients, and we're sort of the 1000th law firm that's written to them, then that's not very helpful. But I think just because that the clients heard from other law firms before us isn't a deal breaker, because it's just about making sure that the way that we present it to them is more attractive and makes them feel more special than other firms do.
Thanks, Baron. Have we got any thoughts from the 57 who are online at the moment as to what you do with this alert? Anyone feel like chipping in?
Or even potentially just what you don't like about it.
Yeah. We got Hugo Petit online by any chance? He's always very interested to participate, but I'm not sure if he's on. Okay.
What do people think about that? Yeah, even just the length of the paragraphs. What do people think about that? Easy to read?
I look, I'd scrap it completely, is my view. The minute you flashed it up on the screen, I couldn't be bothered to read it. So there's just way too much content in there. It doesn't shout at you immediately from when you pick it up why I should bother fighting my way through all of that. So it's a rewrite for me.
Thank you, Jonathan. We got any other thoughts on this before we discard it to the shredder or bin wherever it belongs? So here are some thoughts that we came up with. So obviously there's no catchy headline to draw the attention. It says client alert - new legal development. Could be anything, couldn't it? It's bland. There's no executive summary at the start there's no conclusion at the end. There's no attempt in this to explain the relevance to clients or why they should be bothering with it. There are no hyperlinks to previous things we've written about this or to the decisions themselves, and there's nothing to guide clients in their further actions. In terms of the way it's presented, yes, it's a bland email style. There's no Hogan Lovells branding there. The blocks of text are intimidating and lengthy. There are no paragraphs. There are no subsections or subheadings. No one is featured as an author or a contact. And it's a very impersonal, legalistic style that doesn't seem to be tailored to any particular audience. So if I were going to do something with this, you would need to add a heading. You'd need to add an executive summary. You'd need to say what the implications are. And you would need to explain the importance of the actual decisions in these areas. This note, as it's written here, assumes prior knowledge of law. And the explanation itself is fairly confused. Two decisions mixed together with little clarity of issues in each one. And the lack of subheadings mean the arguments are difficult to follow. So here is one we prepared earlier, sample best practice alert. The Hong Kong Court of Appeal rules arbitration agreement trumps winding up petition and insolvency. So you can see there, we've got a summary at the top. We try to keep the paragraphs fairly short. We use, and the Engage team will help you with this, we use headings and subheadings throughout to break up the article so that it's more digestible for the reader. So Engage is our thought leadership platform, and we'll spend some time just having a look at that. So the client alert process, first of all, it's very important to clear conflicts when you're writing a client alert. So there is a process for doing this, which I'll show you in a moment. But we need to make sure that if we're going to mention an entity, it may be a client, maybe a former client or a current client, we need to make sure that conflicts are cleared on mentioning that entity, because we don't want to find that we publish something disparaging to the client without the client relationship partner knowing anything about it. And some of the big banks actually have rules that you're not allowed to mention their name without going to the very top of their communications department. So that's something to bear in mind, because it also applies when you're talking about case names. So we can think of many recent cases that have been about trusts and about mis-selling, and you might naturally think, I'm going to mention the case name here. You have to check both parts of the case name before you mention the case name itself. We'll take a look at the Engage homepage now. So the Engage homepage, you can get to it two ways. So if I'm on HL Global here, you can get to it through the menu. It should be on the right-hand side, and of course it's not here at the moment. But HL Global, you should find all your quick links down the right-hand side, and Engage should be there. Alternatively, if this doesn't work, you would go to Chrome and just type in Hogan Lovells Engage, and you would get this page. First thing you want to do is log in. You can log in either through this little person at the top or pressing the login here. When you log in, you'll be confronted with this screen that asks you for your email, your password, but you don't need to bother with that. You go direct to direct access for Hogan Lovells and you sign in there. So signing into Engage like that. Hogan Lovells Engage, because I've signed in, always knows who I am, so it recognizes me. If it's your first time there, you want to customize your homepage and tailor your alert. So customize your homepage, press the button there, and you ask Engage to keep you up to date with the topics that interest you. I've got them all selected because I need to know what's happening across the network and across the firm. And you save your preferences. And then you want to tailor your alerts. As I mentioned earlier, Hogan Lovells Engage works by collating articles of interest and sending them to you in an email that comes at midday on a Tuesday if you set for weekly alerts, or you can set it more frequently. So daily, you can have weekly every 2 weeks. I choose weekly. And then you say, what do you want to hear from us? And again, those topics are all ticks because I like to have them all ticks. Then you save your preferences. So that's Hogan Lovells Engage. Anything to say about Engage, Byron, while we're on about as a method of communicating our thought leadership?
Yeah, I think Engage is brilliant. Clients tend to like it. Not all clients like it. Not all clients know about it. I think they seem to like, or those who do like it, like the fact that you've got a sort of repository of all of our thought leadership that they can access. I think it has its pluses and minuses in some respects. I just want to dwell back on the conflicts point, because that's absolutely critical for when we're preparing our articles. it's a real annoyance because it slows down our process of getting articles out, our client alerts out, because we need to run that conflicts check. But it is super important. There are a number of CRPs around the world who are very sensitive about any of their clients being mentioned in alerts without them knowing. And there are a number of clients who are very sensitive about their names being used, even whether it's particularly if a particular case that we're citing involved an unfortunate decision for that client. And there are rules in a number of our engagement letters with those clients that we can't include them in alerts without first checking with them. And sometimes you're lucky and you sort of escape under the radar and get an article out and nobody bats an eyelid. But there have been occasions where in other offices where alerts have gone out and have been either forthright on a particular position or critical of another position that that clients have not found very helpful, and have complained to their relationship partners. So it's absolutely fundamental that we get those conflicts positions cleared before we press go on our alerts.
Thanks, Byron. And here's the way you do it. There is a form. Of course, there is a form. An article publication conflicts request form. So you put your name here, the date you submit it, with the drop-down deadline date. Conflicts are usually fairly quick at getting back to us, but they tend to ask for 72 hours at least. So you'll see that in the form at the bottom, if the deadline date provided within 72 hours, please provide us with a reason for the urgency. When I send in conflict check emails, I usually ask them to confirm receipt so that I know that it's being worked on and hasn't been lost in communication. So you'd write here, please provide a brief synopsis of the publication, including industries to which the article pertains. And then we'd say we're preparing an article to be published on Engage. In this section 2, please provide a list of all entities that are mentioned in the publication, and that's where you mention all the entities. So my practice is generally, if I'm writing about a thick court judgment, have a skim through and then see, are there entities that I'm obviously going to want to talk about, or cases that I'm obviously going to want to talk about. You can always add more entities later if the conflicts team have got something to be going with. We have to check historical case names. So, taking it to the extreme, if we're going to write about tort, Donahue and Stevenson, you would have to conflict check Mr. Donahue, and you'd have to conflict check Mrs. Stevenson to see whether there is any still client relationship there. But just bringing it up to date a bit more. Obviously, some of these decisions involving banks can be very sensitive, and the CRP needs to know, as Byron mentioned. You provide the names of everyone who should be included when the conflicts department returns the search results. You say the article will be published on Engage, and we want to publish as soon as possible for that.
A similar thing, sorry, Nigel, a similar issue can arise with LinkedIn, because it's very easy, of course, because LinkedIn is social media, to forget if you're liking certain content that's on LinkedIn or you are sharing, reposting certain things. It's quite easy to get that wrong. You have to be discerning in what you are flagging or liking, because some clients might not like what you are liking. Also, there are the firm has some rules, lots of rules around social media use, and that doesn't just mean Facebook and Instagram and everything else. It also means LinkedIn. So you have to be very, very careful about what we post and what we share, including what we like. So it's always just a good idea to think twice about what you're about to do with LinkedIn before you finally press go.
Wise words, thank you, Byron. So you're coming to write you've done your conflicts check. You're coming to write your alert. How do you do it? So I'm going to my document, my Word ribbon here, and you see at the top, helpfully, there is client publication. So click on that, and that takes you to the Engage client publication template. So the first page is full of helpful tips. The second page is where you start writing. And this again has got some helpful tips. So importance of the headline, make it catchy. You want to try and reference where you're writing about so that people, in a different geographic location who may not be interested in things going on in this part of the world, aren't misled or feel that it could be of interest to them. So as it says here, your publication will be available to clients and contacts globally. And if it's not immediately obvious in your title, please can you reference the relevant country or jurisdiction, like the example here, the UK Online Safety Bill, what can be done about its free speech problem? If it's not possible to include a country reference in the headline, make sure a reference to the country is incorporated into the summary. And the headline itself must be less than 100 characters, so fewer than 100 characters. And that's so that it displays properly on Hogan Lovells Engage. So it's also a good discipline that you don't write lengthy headlines, but here there is a technical reason why they encourage shorter headlines. You put your summary here. This may be all the client is going to spend time reading. You put your main text here, note to use subheadings, good idea. Next steps, don't always have to use that section, but it's just a prompt to remind you about including next steps. You want to say what sort of publication this is. So if it's typically news, because it's a short and timely summary of an event that's happened recently or regulatory changes. You say who the authors are. You say who the contacts are going to be featured. You put related publications here if we've written about the subject in the past, or there are other resources that the client should know about. Typically, you would want the target release date to be as soon as possible once conflicts have cleared. So once you get the response back from conflicts, it may not all be clear. They may say, this client is active, this is an active client, and you need to talk to someone who's the CRP. So at that point, you need to build in time to make sure you contact the CRP and tell them what it's about and the reference that you intend to make to the client. You confirm that a partner has approved the publication. And here, this is important, going back to Byron's point on LinkedIn, keywords, so sort of hashtags, no more than 10 descriptive words or phrases to sum up the subject of your publication. You suggest a title for Google search results, which may be the same as your general title, or it may not. You give a description for Google search results to make sure that our piece comes up as one of the first when people search for it. And then you have to tick off which are the practices that you want to tag. So people, when they choose Engage, will tick these practice areas or knowledge areas to know more about. And if you're writing about something outside your own practice area, then you need to get topic tag approval, and you do that by letting Engage know that you want to write about, for example, transportation and logistics. You can see here that you're encouraged to mail the Engage topic approvers for transport and logistics. They will take a look and say, yeah, absolutely fine. Or they may come back to you and say, can't quite see the relevance of why you want to tag transport and logistics. So a whole host of topics that you can tag here, going down through disputes. Then you tag the countries that you want your piece to be targeted to. So Hong Kong and England and Wales, for example, United Kingdom, and the language, which for our purposes typically will be English. So Byron, any thoughts on the process?
I think just be sensible and practical in what you're producing. Make sure that you're getting it into the inboxes of the right people, and targeting it appropriately to clients and target clients.
Great, thank you. So going back to the slides, so we talked a bit about the Engage template. We talked a little bit about Engage and the template we've just looked at. So some sample client alerts. So showcasing some client alerts where we tried to come up with some catchy headlines from the region. So no dice, no obligation to disclose conditional fee agreement in casino disputes. Auditor's liability has been a theme that we've been pushing here. So the whole issue about effectiveness of disclaimers and negligence actions when auditors can be held liable. Working with our Indonesian colleagues, advancing arbitration there, some recent key changes, and then a UK Supreme Court alert on principles of contractual interpretation. So we're coming up towards the end. Please feel free to jump in with any questions if you have them, but it gives us a moment to look at the Hogan Lovells Style Guide, or I should say the all-new Hogan Lovells Style Guide, which was, as you can see in our colours, which was published, this version, earlier this year. So the Hogan Lovells Style Guide, we'll send around these slides afterwards, and you can find the link to the document here on NetDocs. But as the style guide itself says, we come from diverse cultures. We're products of different educational systems. We have our own personal preferences and biases. Our strength lies in our diversity, but one of the strengths of Hogan Lovells as a firm is that we're one firm working together around the world. Consistency in the way we write across the firm helps us spread this collaborative message, and it provides our clients with a consistent experience. So the critical elements of our writing style are set out in the document, and you should refer to it when drafting your work. And that's whether you're targeting an external or an internal audience. And it helps you consolidate differences of opinion that inevitably occur when authors do work together across borders. And so some of the key considerations that are mentioned in the style guide are consistency. So consult the style guide and the online AP style book if you want to delve that far. The firm has a subscription to the AP style book every time you write or edit any marketing material. Crucially, think about your audience, write to their nationality and cultural expectations. If your audience is global, then the firm's preference is for global American English. This is an important point. Protect Hogan Lovells and our clients. So don't use any variation of the word expert or specialist, even though I think I might have done earlier, to describe our lawyers or practices when you're talking to people outside. But you can use the word expertise, specialise, or specialties. As we mentioned earlier, don't mention any clients by name without written permission from the client relationship partner, and you can find that out through Hogan Lovells Global, through HR Global by doing a search, and also when you get the results back from conflicts. Remember the 4 elements of our tone of voice: dynamic, precise, committed, and authentic. And proofread. Make sure your work is reviewed thoroughly. This is written for the M&BD, but for us as well as lawyers, make sure you, I find it helps to print it out, go through with a ruler, because the eye can get lazy when seeing stuff on screen. Any other thoughts there, Byron?
No, I think we just need to make sure that we follow our guidelines. It's quite easy to forget that they exist. You will get pulled up on them if you don't follow them. It's important, right? We need to make sure that whilst we want to personalize things, and I do think that's really important, that we maintain the Hogan Lovells theme throughout our writing, so that it's seen as the Hogan Lovells voice and Hogan Lovells way of approaching these things. But the guidelines are there, easy enough to find.
So as we're coming up to the end of the session, but we will take you through to 4 o'clock. Are there any questions that you'd like to raise or talk about? Feel free to open your mics, put on your cameras, or drop a note in the chat box. And while you're thinking about that, let's go through some other things from the Global Writing Style Guide. So we looked at this and the key considerations. Reference there to the AP Style Guide. Firm policies, rules from the General Counsel. So communications concerning a lawyer's services. A lawyer shall not make false or misleading communication about the lawyer or the lawyer's services. So make sure you don't make statements that are false, true statements that omit necessary facts, and true statements that can't be substantiated. So avoid the words expert or specialist in their bios. However great you think you are, you should not refer to yourself as one of the best, top number 1, preferred, or the like. Don't include client endorsements or testimonials unless they're specifically quoting a legal directory or other publication. Preferred words include experience, leader, led, focuses on, is active in, is known for. Avoid superlatives that can't be proven, or words that can mislead readers and create an unrealistic expectation. So here on the left, words to avoid. Expert, instead try authority. Highly skilled practitioner. Expertise, think of comprehensive knowledge, practical know-how. Specialist, you might think of authoritative. Focused practitioner, specializes, focuses on, centers on, concentrates on. The best, named to America's best lawyers for 5 years. That's something you can say if it's true. Unparalleled, exceptional, rare, and top, you might consider world class. And the thing here, we talked about whether it's best to be first to market or later, and I agree with Byron. There's no problem about us being later to market. Quite often, barristers' chambers put out alerts shortly after a case in which they've been involved in, but they tend to be short, even pithier alerts than we might want to do. So there's nothing wrong about taking your time. But if you do read other people's alerts, beware of plagiarism. So make sure you always go back to the case involved, go back to the judgment, see the quotes that are, if quotes have been mentioned in another firm's article, go back to the quotes, go back to the source material, see if you agree with the interpretation of the quotes, see if there may be better quotes. Has that other alerter come up with what you think is the main takeaway from the judgment? So anything to talk about on that, Byron?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, also be wary that, because sometimes other firms, and I'm sure we've been guilty of this in the past as well, get it wrong and factually wrong, or get the legal tests wrong in their alerts. So don't just take it as read that what they've said is right. We also, I think I've got absolutely no issue with when we are preparing our alerts, looking at material from other law firms, from barristers' chambers, from whoever it might be, because it's good to see what others are saying about these things. And quite often you can get useful viewpoints from there that you can consider when preparing your own thought leadership on these things. So I've got absolutely no bones at all about people using looking at other firms' publications. It's just about making sure that we don't end up then just parroting what others are saying. As I said before, and I've been rattling on about all the way through, is the most important thing is making the clients feel like you are speaking directly to them, and you are saying, I know this is important to you, and the reason this is important to you is X, Y, and Z. And the reason I'm talking to you about this is because I can help you out with this, or my colleagues can help you out with this. And it might not necessarily be an area that you are the authority or focus practitioner in, but we will have somebody who is. And so we're at all times, we are selling this business, this firm, our product, which is our legal advice. So it's just about having that in mind every time we're thinking about drafting something. And also, I think it's quite easy to be lazy and decide, oh, I could write about that, but I'm not going to. There are other firms doing it. Somebody's already written about it. What's the point? I think the point is that clients do want to hear from us. A lot of the time, the feedback that we get from client listening, whether it's direct conversations with clients or through the client listening program, is that they want to hear from us more and more. They don't want to hear from us less. And they want us to be able to be putting in front of them I won't use expertise because I'm not supposed to use it, our comprehensive knowledge, so that they know exactly where they need to go when they do have an issue. So don't be shy, get drafting, see how it looks on paper, and get something out to your clients. Even if you're doesn't need to be a full-blown 3-page alert. It can just be few lines in an email to a client. As long as it's done properly to a client, you know how your clients and target clients like to read things better than anybody else. So it's just about making sure that we're front of mind all the time with them. Whenever the issue does arise, they know that we're there to help.
Thanks, Byron. And yeah, just in the last minute or so, the style guide has loads of information. It's useful for you. So how you refer to our capabilities and regions. We've got how we refer to, different words where there's difference between the British and American spelling. We've got something on acronyms, abbreviations. So try not to use, we try not to use that thing of definitions in quotes and bold. That's more legalistic. And might put people off. If you're writing about a consultation and there's only one consultation you're talking about in your article, you probably don't need to define it at all. We've got a note about how you refer to dates and times, currencies, punctuation, capitalization, and yeah, a useful resource all around. So that brings us to the top of the hour, I think, unless anyone's got any other questions. We're here to help, or if you want any ideas on resource, the engaged support team are here to support. And as Byron said, get writing, get drafting. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Please let us know if there are any questions, if anyone's still hanging on, because we're now at the top of the hour. But if you've got any questions, please reach out to us and we'll do our best to help. Thanks, everyone.